We are going to be looking at two key issues. First and foremost, we'll take off from the last visit that President Bola Tinubu had to do with the Republic of China, whereby he met with Xi Jinping in Beijing, and issues were discussed. So we're going to be looking at the major pullouts from that visit in China. And also, we also saw before then, we saw the Africa-China Summit in Beijing, whereby about 54 African nations were in China, and so many things were discussed. And then also, we also look at the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereby recently we noticed that there was a failed coup attempt. And of course, this time we're told that some Canadians, and of course some Britons were involved in that coup. So let's see how it goes, because in the DRC, just like major countries in Africa, once it's a failed coup and once perpetrators are caught, it's a treasonable offense, there's no doubt about that. And of course, the sentence is, is death. So we're going to be looking at discussing the possibility whether Americans, Canadians, and Britons will die in Africa as a result of coup. So we're going to be looking at all that today as we discuss on the show. Well, to look at all these key issues today, we are so privileged on set right here. We've got Dr. Patrick Awosaige, a public affairs analyst. Sir, welcome to the program, Africa.
It's a pleasure to have me here, and good morning, folks.
Okay. And of course, when we are able to connect, we should be with Dr. Oche Barnabas, who is the president of NIDO. Okay, he's already on set now. All right, so he's the president of NIDO, that's Nigerians in Diaspora in China, and he's on set reaching us directly from far away. Dr. Oche, you're welcome. Mr. Oche, welcome to the program Africa Discourse.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you this.
All right, so we'll just kick off with you. Let's get your insights. Recently, our president was in China, and of course, he met with President Xi Jinping in Beijing. What would you say is the major pullouts of that visit that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had with the Chinese president?
Well, thank you once more for this opportunity to share in your program, and with my own community here, which is in Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, China, we are very glad to have Mr. President come in with the many other presidents for this FOCAC meeting. And from this meeting, we see that Nigeria had stepped up its partnership from just being a strategic partner to a higher partnership here. And there are, from the words of Mr. President when we met with him, this is a very, very satisfactory meeting. And from the many MOUs that were signed, mostly in the area of energy, mostly also in the area of media exchange. There were more MOUs that were signed to do more projects in the Belt and Road Initiative. And I think for a long run, Nigerians we might not have maybe the immediate effects today, but on the long run, we're looking forward to have a very, very robust effects on this initiative and on these partnerships that have been built through this meeting from Mr. President from this meeting.
All right, so when you talk about the Nigeria-Chinese relationship, it's been more or less suspicious in the sense that back home, most Nigerians believe that the Chinese rather they take more from Nigeria than giving back to the nation. I mean, a situation whereby when it comes to expertise and when it comes to area of, investing back home, they really don't see that Nigerian expertise is good enough, or somehow they don't, develop or also contribute to Nigerian expertise in order to bolster their investment opportunities back home. What would you have to say about that?
Well, those are perceptions on different fronts. But I think the major approach for me will be the policies that our government put in place in these partnerships. And in the past, I know we've seen more of a focus of they coming to maybe just bringing lots of imports into Nigeria, and also having maybe those road projects are more of just loans that are coming to do projects in Nigeria. But right now, the focus has changed to some level that we're going to be seeing more building of industries in Nigeria. I mean, that will create more of the industrialization that we're talking about in Nigeria. So it's a step, for me, it's a step in the right direction that the government have taken. And we will definitely, there have been thoughts, I think the thoughts have been put into kind of partnerships they had in the past. And they've seen that, well, maybe it has not been what we expected. And right now, from what I'm hearing, from the kind of partnerships that have been pulled through from this meeting, and there are going to be more involvement from the Nigerian part. And we're looking at in a situation whereby our exports from Nigeria will increase, and more than what we have right now. And most importantly, the place of industrialization, a place of building of more industries, which we strategically to train people, strategically to increase employment. And surely, as I said, for our point of view here, I think this is the right direction that the government is taking right now.
So, what do you think is the perception of Nigerians away from that are not at home now, looking at the relationship between China and Nigeria? What is the perception generally?
Well, we are diasporans here, and we see a lot of we know how the space is on the internet, the social media, Twitter, and all the thoughts of, oh, this is Chinese language. They put some hidden clauses on contracts, and they're going to buy Nigeria over. No, but for we here, been here for a couple of years, knowing that if you're going to a contract, you look at the terms of the contract, fulfill your own parts of the contract, and everything goes well. So I think that from the perceptions of Nigeria as well, I think we should look more on our government and follow their words, like what Mr. President told us here. Well, he looks at the infrastructures that he has seen in Nigeria, in China. He has seen the roads, he has seen the schools, and his desire is to replicate this in Nigeria. And we should give him the chance to do what he needs to do. And one of the ways of we give him that opportunity or the chance to do it properly is to support him. How do we support him? It's also the way of building the right image, the way of sharing the right messages, not all the way negative, oh, it's not happening well, and they are going to cheat us, they are going to take over Nigeria. It is not done. When you have a partnership, you fulfill your own parts of partnership, definitely those things will not happen. This is a modern society that we are right now. So I think from the perceptions that people have in Nigeria, we should look more into these projects and look more of what we're going to gain from the project as a people, not a government team, not political team, but as a people. And there are I must say there's a lot of light at the end of this tunnel. We need the tunnel, not before we get to the end of the tunnel.
We'll have a new entrance into the discussion this afternoon. Dr. Peter Owaibi, popularly known as Peter the Rock, has joined us this afternoon. Now, of course, Dr. Peter Owaibi is a member of the PDP Campaign Council in UK Edo 2024. So, welcome to the program, Africa Discourse.
Thank you very much, great man.
All right, now. So we still have Mr. Uche right there in China, the president of Nigerians in diaspora in China. Now, we're trying to look at the bilateral relationship between China and Nigeria a while ago. We're trying to describe all that. Now, how would you want to describe the safety of Nigerians in China?
Okay, yeah, safety-wise, in my little travels around the world, not speaking as an ambassador to China or maybe speaking for the Chinese, but we talking about this security that we have in this country. It's really it is a very safe place to live, a very safe place to live. And secondly, they have, of course, very strict laws, and laws applies to those that live here, that's the locals, and also apply to we foreigners that live in Nigerians and many other foreigners that live here. And they take their laws very, 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 very seriously. So in my experience here, you are on the side of the law. You don't have a challenge. We work freely with them, and the places where there are maybe where people try to maybe out of ignorance, not able to abide by the law, my organization, we come in to try to give a face to the Nigerian image and speak to the authorities. And so far, the authorities have always been very cooperative when we come in to intervene in such situations. So I would say China is very safe for Nigerians here, even here.
Okay, why we may say that other advanced countries, their interest in African nations, why we can readily point them. Take for example, we are seeing, the Russian government now, the interest it's having on some African nations. Take for example in Niger, one could say that those interests are kind of political. But for a country like China, how would you want to describe the interest that China has in African nations? Take for example like Nigeria.
Well, I say that for you to remain relevant, or for you to be good in quotes, and want to play a role of an elder brother, you have to make sacrifices. And so far, you can see from what is coming out here from these partnerships with Africa, China is willing to invest about over $50 billion into Africa. And the interest is to remain relevant. The interest is to maintain a high economy. The interest is to as I said, remain relevant at the top. And I won't talk about the politics that they have up with the Western nations. And the way China, from my experience, it's either you are with them or you're not, or you lose not being with them. And I know Nigeria has a very, very key position, being the second largest trade partners that China has, and a lot of trade opportunities. Of course, Nigeria is not a country that you want to joke about. It's not a country that you want to set aside when it comes to building relationship with the African nations and Africa generally. So I think we are in a very, very good position as in Nigeria to enjoy this relationship and also enjoy the benefits that come from these funds that they are throwing to Africa for development.
We still have two gentlemen right here, Dr. Patrick Awosagi and also Dr. Peter Wybie. Now, gentlemen, we are looking at the bilateral relationship between China as a nation and, of course, Nigeria. Now, we saw our president in China recently, and also there was a China-Africa summit, in Beijing, whereby major countries, about 53, 54 countries, were in China discussing bilateral relationship. Now, back here, what is our own impression back home? Because we've just heard Mr. Oche now speaking as a Nigerian that is not home. So I don't know if it is the same perception we have with, the relationship, compared to what he said. I'll start with Awosa again.
Thank you very much. In terms of bilateral relationships, in terms of trades and all whatnot, we can't say there's any cause for alarm. There's no need for fear or to fret for what will be the likelihood of the near future. In the sense that, like he rightly mentioned, it's not about the Chinese government or the people coming into Nigeria. It's about how we receive them, because there are laws that govern all our transactions. If you strengthen your laws, you obey court orders, you follow principles, MOU have been signed. If it's violated, it's become an issue of court to decide. Violation, there are penalties, there are punishments that's meted out for everything you do. So basically, I think it has not to do with them coming. Like he established, I know the angle we talked about probably was their interests. Every businessman have his interest to better his lots. They have the technology, they have the know-how, you have the raw materials, you have the locals that could help put this together. Nobody can exist on its own. They don't have the much of materials they need. They have the technology, so they are coming to synergize with us so as to grow their own economy as well, bigger than what it is now. They also clamor to become the biggest economy in the entire world. So they are also working very hard to reach that peak, not military might, like you look at America and other states back and forth. That's not it. It's about building their own space, and you can't do it without us. If you have the funds, you have the wherewithal, you are able to build other countries that have been, that have been in a deplorable state for so long, and then there's some level of loyalty will be there, and synergies and all of that put together. I think that is basically what we are looking at. My major worries and challenge is not them coming, because for them to splash so much money, obviously they are going to play by the rules. The heel that plays the piper dictates the tone. We have the resources here. We have the raw materials that they need. Natural resources. They are coming to annex to, carry on with whatever industry, energy, media, wherever space they want to, pour all that into. We are to obey court orders, rules. Don't say one thing in the morning, another government come tomorrow. I think we're fond of that as a nation, which is not a good way to do. That's why many people or many other countries don't really enjoy doing business back in Nigeria. Okay. Because they will come back in the morning and tell you something, the government, they don't know about it, and then there's, hurt the soul process, and that's become a legal issue. I think that is what we should look at. And for them coming, they are going to do work strictly. Their MOU have been signed. If you look at it, I was able to get some of those excerpts from it. I think it's a good one.
Okay, now, Dr. Peter Wybie, you are also a Nigerian in the diaspora. For an onward of about 15, 20 years now, we've seen this relationship between the Chinese government and the Nigerian government. Now, what is your own perception? Do you think it will be, at the end of the day, to the benefits of Nigeria?
Well, if you look at it, from an economic point of view, political point of view, and stability point of view, regional stability, you'll be looking at Nigerians playing a fiddle role, in the association with China. Recently, be signing MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. 20 billion has been earmarked to be borrowed again by this our government of Nigeria. They call it Blue Rail project in Lagos, and those 20 billion, when it comes in, at the end of 50 years, you will not have seen the Blue Rail functional, and therefore you're not able to collect money and be able to repay back or sustain your economy situation in Nigeria. Again, they are saying they want to borrow $1 billion to give to Kogi State. How is the money going to be used? Just to borrow doesn't make any form of economic viability in our deleterious economy that we are practicing and we're experiencing in Nigeria. We need more stringent kind of astute implementation of policies that will grow this continent.
Now, Dr. Uche, how does it bother you? I mean, one major fallout of the summit and the presidential visit to China is that President Xi Jinping of China told African leaders that the issue of debt cancellation is a no-no area. How does it bother you as a Nigerian? I mean, as an African too?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Before I respond to it, you know, there's something special, I would say, about the kind of development or the kind of funding that is received from China here. These are fundings that come with infrastructure, and the infrastructures are built by the Chinese government. Not the government, maybe the companies, the state-owned companies that come in to do those projects in Nigeria. I think it's a little bit different approach from the funds you get from the World Bank or the ones you get from other funding organizations to help nations. No, this one is strictly for infrastructure. And before I answer your question, there are some things that bother me. Like if you build infrastructure just to make a name or just to make a mark as a government, for me, it's a huge challenge. For example, the railway project in Abuja, the one that was recently started being functional with the Minister of FCT made it functional at last. You know, it pains me to hear that a railway project had been completed for months, for over a year, and it was not in use. Why? Because they needed to just have, they just needed to make it functional, like maybe building roads to connect it and make it functional. The minister didn't do anything. He only just came and made it functional. So now, if you look at the period in which that railway had been lying down there, those infrastructures were just lying down for months, for a very long time. How do you make turnovers? How do you pay back through those means? So I think we need to have a government that is responsive, a government that is not showing off to just show that we are doing a job, and a government that will follow up to the end. These loans, not these loans, these infrastructural loans that we're receiving from China for different rail projects and all these different infrastructures in China, I think that there should be a policy in our government whereby the policy stands on how to pay back, how to run, not just to you place the infrastructure on ground and you find a way of paying back. And these policies should run from government to government. It's not the one that a regime come and decide to abandon a particular payment plan and decide to do something else. No, the policy should move across party lines. It should move across regime lines that you need to pay this. It's not to show off. As long as we are strategic in what we are doing, we are strategic in paying back in a building infrastructure for our people, and also to pay back from those infrastructure when it's functional, then I don't think there'll be a problem. What happened? The worst that will happen is when we hear from other countries, like if you dig deep to places like Zambia or some other countries, whereby some of those projects, the government comes and take over it. And that is what you don't want to happen to you. And why would they have? They don't have to do it. For me, it's a very, very simple thing. We allow infrastructure to be built on our land. We take care of it and pay back. So it's worrisome, but I think that if our government are responsive, if our government are serious, and we as a nation, we're also serious about what we want and how we want to develop, it will be not a difficult thing for us to pay back this infrastructural loans that we receive
Okay,
from China.
quickly now, I'll give you 1 minute before we come back on set here. We're talking about debts that Nigeria and some other African nations are owing China. Now, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, in this visit we're talking about now, perhaps also told President Bola Ahmed Tinubu point blank that debt cancellation is a no-go area. You know, we started off by trying to look at the sincerity of purpose of this relationship between China and Nigeria. So how would you react to that?
Yeah, I don't know how we want to cancel our debts like Paris. No, we should pay our debts. And I think so far we are paying debts. And that is why we're having some of the challenges that we're having right now, that the government is under pressure and removing subsidies and all that. I think the government are paying debts, but we need, what I'm saying, my reaction to that is that we need as a people to follow up with our government and ensure that our government are doing what they are supposed to do. You can take the loans, you can take the infrastructure, but ensure to pay back. Push them to pay back. Push them to use what the infrastructures are meant to be used for, and push them to pay back. We need to pay back. If they don't pay back, well, I think it's a very sad thing, because we might find a situation whereby some of our institutions might be, the approach some of our institutions might not be good, like might be taken over by foreigners, which is something that we don't want to happen. And somehow, if we don't take care of it right now, we cannot stop that from happening. So that is my own take.
We'll take a short pause again. The program is still Africa Discourse on Independent Television. We'll take out that short pause. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you so much. Our program still right here on Independent Television. Now, back on set now, Dr. YB and Barrister Wosage. We were trying to look at the issue of paying back our debts, you know. I saw Dr. Peter YB, trying to make some reactions. I mean, how do we begin to start thinking of how to pay back our debts as a nation and perhaps as a continent? I'll start with Dr. YB.
Well, this question is very pertinent, it's very important, very useful, and as a nation, we all have to be in the boat of debt reconciliation. When you borrow money from the banks or from anywhere or from other nations as an imputinate, you are expected to clarify the use and purposes of that loans that you borrowed. But when you borrow money because you don't have money, you don't borrow when you have, you borrow when you don't have to implement projections of your projects. And when you now borrow money and you use it to buy SUVs for 400 and over 400 National Assembly members, and these SUVs cost dollars. So you borrow dollars and send the dollars back to the country that borrowed you this dollar without implementing it on projects. Meanwhile, take note, we have Jeep manufacturing companies in Nigeria where we can use Naira without exporting our dollar back to the country that borrowed us this dollar. To me, it's absolutely irreconcilable with economic policies. You cannot reconcile such permanentic kind of action or kind of spending. You don't spend money you borrow. That means you borrow the money, it's not your own. But you spend it as if to say you are a productive nation. Meanwhile, the jeeps you are buying, you don't produce it. Must we ride jeeps?
Yeah, but
Must
the maintenance of official fleets vehicles of the president are statutory.
Statutory,
Yeah, statutory.
is a condemnable statutory. It's an illiterate kind of statutory, and it's not a sustainable kind of statutory. If you are going to be able to statutarize your jeeps, you are riding presidential fleet and all, burning over 100 cars in one journey for 5 minutes from Aso Rock to Aso Villa, you must be able to sustain it. Don't go and borrow money to do it.
Okay. All right. So, gentlemen, let's go over to the other topic of today now. We're looking at the coup in the DRC, that's the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereby Americans, Canadians, and of course some British citizens have been fingered. As a matter of fact, we understand that they've been sentenced to death. About 13 of them have been sentenced to death. So the big question this time is, will American citizens die on the soil of Africa? That's the big question now. Because we're trying to pull our, maybe our conclusion now from what we perceive these nations to be. I mean, we're talking about America, and of course, we're talking about Canada. Then we're also talking about the Britain. So let's get Dr. Oche. Dr. Oche, you're still right there. We just need your quick reaction on this issue, quickly.
While we condemn coup, it's something that is not acceptable, and of course, foreign intervention in countries, a sovereign country, is not acceptable. And I think in this kind of situation, there are also, they could be left to maybe, I'm not a lawyer, but I think they should have something like a more international arbitrary court to handle some of these kind of issues. But clearly, for another national to try to topple a government of another nation is highly treasonable. It's very, very treasonable, and of course we don't support that. But how to go about it is sentencing them to death and all that. That's a very, very big questions to answer. Well, I think more if it depends on how they are linked. If there are people that are linked maybe from their own countries, they are linked to what they've done there, it's another thing. But if something that is linked to their own personal gains, maybe their own personal organizations, perhaps there should be different approach to the way and they are being handled, like the way they are being prosecuted. Those are my thoughts.
Gentlemen on set, thank God that both of you are lawyers, so we may be needing some international legal interpretation to this issue. Now, the Americans and the Canadians and of course the British nationals that we're talking about now are Benjamin Zalman, who is an American, and of course we also have Poland Marcel Malenge, an American. Then we have Taylor Thompson, a Canadian. Then also too we have Christian Malege. That's a British national. Now, these guys, for the Benjamin, who has a dual citizenship, he's a citizen of the Democratic Republic of Congo and also an American citizen. So, what is, in the eye of the law, Dr. Awosaige, how do you explain this now? I mean, a national of an American, in the DRC, sentenced to death. How will he hold ground?
What other law will we? There's a country, or rather, the very country they have gone into to topple the said government. And we know the military coups and the consequences. So if that's the case, who's house called doesn't really count, whether you're American or Britain or whatever. You face the music, and that's what it is. Death penalty is it, and that's it, if they are found wanting. Except there are other reasons they could give, which I don't think there's any reason sufficient, in as much as we don't want military dictatorial governments. We don't support it. We say we don't want it. A good number of them have been doing so well, in as much as, we are saying that's not. But in the eye of the military junta and their ways of looking at, even in law, treason is death. So there's no way, there's no more, it's because he's American, we should exonerate him and go back home and strike him. No, everybody faces the same. I think that's basically what it is.
And now, Dr. Peter Owaibi, you are a British also by citizenship. I know that too. You have a dual citizenship, a Nigerian citizen and also a British citizen. Now, your fellow brother, has been sentenced to death in the DRC. What would you think that the British government will be doing at this time?
You see, coup, there are different types of coup. Coup d'etat and coup. Coup d'etat means coup that involves arms and ammunition. And then coup is just like a palace coup. Just come around like Nigerian government, just topple it among the people in the parliament and stuff. But the one that happened in DRC is a coup d'etat.
Yeah.
And it was necessarily by a Congolese citizen. Christian is a citizen of Congo, although domiciled in America.
Yeah.
And he's an American Congolese citizen.
Yeah.
And then the son also an American. And then the son's friend, Thompson, he's 22 years, a friend of Charlie's, also a Congolese. And the other man, a Belgian and a British, And about 50 of them went on trial. And 30, as of now, have been sentenced to death. The death penalty calculates on them.
In the DRC?
Yes, in the DRC.
Yeah.
Sort of a jungle justice. Anyway, it was a kind of
a jungle justice.
Yes, it was not in the real court of law. They set up a tent.
Coup?
Wait now. They set up a tent in the prison where they are being kept, and then pronounced death, found them guilty, and pronounced death sentence on them. And the American government told us, the American embassy told us that of course they have a right of appeal on that on the defendants. Now, what happened was that one of the son of Christian, his son Christian who lives in America, the father invited him for a holiday, and he came with his friend. Thompson. Yeah. And then when he got there, the father made sure they gave them arms. They say, "Follow me," and then that's how they were implicated. So they were like under duress to take part in the coup. Such boys, you cannot find them guilty. And then, of course, among the 30 that were found guilty, you have 3 Americans. Which is the son, the friend, and the other most
some Canadians, some British citizens.
Not some, one.
Yeah.
One Canadian, one Belgian, and one British citizen. But this participation is not a national participation.
There's not a national participation?
Yes. It's not a national participation. If I go to London now to kill somebody.
We are talking about a British citizen here. I mean, we're talking about a treasonable offense here.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a national participation. American government, the Lucy, the ambassador to Congo, the American ambassador to Congo, Miss Lucy, has said that she will give the investigation all the cooperation they will so need, but that the CIA is not involved. Let's assume in the past, in the toppling of Patrice Lumumba, Otishombe, in those days, the CIA were involved.
Now, what do you mean when you say it's not a national offense? We're trying to say that is a personal. Are you saying that?
No, let me clarify it. Yeah. Let me be succinct about what I said. Yeah. If you go to UK now, for instance, in England, and they are taking part in a riot, protestation, in riot, and you took part, and at the end of the day, they round all of you up. And they say, "Oh, Evans is a Nigerian." Is it a national thing? Is it Nigeria government that sent you to go and take part? If it is financed, orchestrated, and pursued and promoted by the national government, then it can be held responsible by that national government, by that nation. Okay. But if you went there as an individual, the country doesn't even know where you were at that time. You did not plan with the country's authority. You are acting on an individual capacity, which excludes the national involvement in such an act. So you cannot now come and say America. It's so lovely for Africans to quickly say Americans, Belgium, they are the ones disturbing. They aren't disturbing you. We were colonized by the white people in the past. We got our independence in 1960. Since 1960 till date, Nigerians have had about 5 coups or 6.
Yeah.
They have had coups, and because of dissatisfaction. And therefore, the reasons of coup is because the people are dissatisfied. Now in Nigeria, now we are being colonized by our own citizens after we have been freed from colonization from the British people.
Yeah. So just quickly now, Dr. Oche, we just want 30 seconds, your reaction as we wrap it up on this program this afternoon. I mean, this DRC coup, President Zekezi, that's the name there now, the DRC president.
Zekezi.
We want you to wrap it up from your end quickly.
Yeah, I think I would say that they should trade with caution, and just as my brother have said, if the investigations have been totally done and these people have gone through a trial and they are found wanting, then fine, they could be charged for treason. But I would say they should trade caution with these nationals from different countries.
So again, they should tread with caution. Is that a signal of warning?
No, I don't believe in that in any way, sir. I have been I don't really, when we say, there's nothing special about an American getting involved. If you commit an offense and you are found wanting, obviously for them to say, okay, you are found wanting, that means all the risks to be done had been done. If that had not been done, that becomes another issue altogether.
But Dr. Waibi said it was a kangaroo trial.
No, that's the way he's saying
No,
it.
that's what they wrote.
Yeah.
If they wrote that, who did? Who is writing? Who is writing? So we should look at it. When we talk about the colonial masters, and like you mentioned, that they have left us these donkey years, they have never left. That they left the neo-colonialistic tendencies and all the transactions that have been happening around the oil regions and all whatnot. We all know this. So that they have said, okay, we are not involved. I would even ask the government, I would have loved that the government should open out a proper investigation to really ascertain the rule, if it's beyond these individuals. Why will you come home, or you're a national, you came home and look at what is going on? We should know. It's possible that the government is involved.
Okay. All right,
it's possible.
So
I'm not saying that. It's possible too.
Because of time issue, we want to say a very big thank you to
Can I also
Dr.
sum up?
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah, but you see, I believe that, as a matter of fact, they just newly introduced the death sentence for treason. It is
in
not
the DRC?
Yes. It was suspended, they reintroduced it. Where is the justification of death sentence in anything at all, particularly treason? The people that are coming into coup, planning coup and exhibiting coup and, carrying out coup, are in dissatisfaction of the way the government is being run. So if you are found guilty, you can be in prison. You don't have to be death sentenced, because the people are there who are committing this crime, fraudulent leaders and all. They should be the ones to be subjected to death sentence, not people who are trying to reform government. Okay.
All right, so we want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Oche, that's the president of Nigerians in China, join us virtually all the way from China on this program this afternoon. Dr. Oche, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Oche.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And also
Thank
Dr. Awo Saige, thank you so much. Dr. Peter Owaibi, thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps we will be able to have Dr. Owaibi one more time on Wednesday, I suppose, so that we look at issues around the Edo election.
I'll be glad.
To prepare for Edo election 2024.
I'll be glad.
All right, so that's the program today, Africa Discourse on Independent Television. Goodbye and God bless you.